Nigel Farage hit out at United Nations Joyce Msuya on his GB News show on Tuesday during his "What the Farage" segment. The former UKIP leader blasted the Deputy Executive Director of the UN Environment Program for suggesting the COVID pandemic was caused by climate change. "What the Farage," he began. "The story today, that really had me choking on my cornflakes." Take a look at the Assistant Secretary-General of the United Nations and Deputy Executive Director of the UN Environment Program, Joyce Msuya, who was speaking at the opening ceremony for the 54th session of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. In an address at the ceremony, Msuya noted, "The climate crisis, together with biodiversity loss, and pollution has indeed been underway for decades. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought this triple planetary crisis into sharp focus," she continued. "The pandemic is a warning from the planet that much worse lies in store unless we change our ways." Commenting on the clip, Farage said, "Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. The pandemic is a warning from the planet. Yes, the pandemic has clearly been caused by climate change, by CO2 emissions. I mean, everything is down to climate change, isn't it?" Farage quipped. Not a single mention that it's possible that the pandemic came from a Chinese wet market. And certainly not a chance in hell that she would ever suggest that the pandemic might just have leapt out of a laboratory in Wuhan. A laboratory that was funded by all the great organizations of the world, US authorities, UN authorities and European Union ones as well. And I have to say, this obsessive, ridiculous, politically correct, nonsensical view that everything that goes wrong in the world is down to climate change and that disaster is almost upon us, I think we see with that speech how utterly farcical some of that has now become. As I say, I nearly choked on my cornflakes, but then, what do you expect from the United Nations? Elsewhere on Tuesday's edition of Farage's show, the former UKIP leader spoke to Anne Widdecombe. Discussing her stint on Strictly Come Dancing, she said, "Anton, du beak. Never called it dancing. There were many things but none of it dancing. There was comedy and that's what we went for, particularly in the Latin," she shared. Trending: what is happening where you live? Find out by adding your postcode or visit in your area. "In the ballroom, he had held of me and could push me around, but when it came to the Latin, he used to say from the moment he let me go until the moment I came back, he was never certain what would have happened in between." Widdecombe added, "I only expect it to last 2 or 3 weeks, that is the honest truth. I didn't expect it to knock my retirement into a completely different course." Nigel Farage returns to GB News on Wednesday at 7 p.m.